Hey everyone, and welcome back to Unedited and Unscripted with yours truly. Today we're talking about the top 20 thrash metal albums of all time, at least my favorite top 20 thrash metal albums of all time. You might or might not know that I'm kind of a thrash metal buff. I love that genre from the very beginning when I got into metal. It's still stuck with me over time, and I just love it. The little background to this whole thing is 11 years ago, I did a little series on my blog, the top 20 thrash metal albums of all time. And over the past 11 years, I thought, I screwed up at least 3 times. I made big mistakes and I want to correct them. So I thought now for the last 6 months, when this first idea came into traction, I thought I gotta do a video. And here we are. So I'm doing this twofold. Today we're just talking about spots 20 to 11. Next time we're talking about the top 10, because otherwise it gets too fucking boring and nobody will listen, and I don't want you to fall asleep. So let's start with spot 20. We start with a band from California. I think overall underappreciated. You don't necessarily find them everywhere, anytime, anywhere. It's Vio-Lence, Eternal Nightmare, their debut album from, I believe, 1987. Underappreciated, not necessarily for that record, but for all the other records that came afterwards, although they then were released on a major label, really. That one wasn't. I think major concerns with singer's Sean Killian's voice. He's very unique, but it's not really every time that great. He sounds very good on this one. This is, by the way, the first press. He sounds very good here, but on later records, it's getting really, really difficult for me to get into it. This should be in your top 20 list, by all means. I don't care where exactly. For me, it's now 20. But it should be at least somewhere in your collection and in your top 20 list. Next one, on 19, we have Morbid Saint, Spectrum of Death. A very interesting album because it was kind of the holy grail for thrash metal fans for a really, really fucking long time. It was initially released on a Mexican label called Avanzada Metallicus, I believe, that went broke right after this was released. And therefore, just a couple of copies were pressed and also sent to record shops and everything. Therefore, it wasn't available for a really long time unless you had a fuck ton of money that you wanted to pay for it. Nobody wanted. It was very, very rare until Relapse Records re-released it in 2009. That's the version from there. Overall, it's a very impressive, very intense album. It doesn't sound that great. It was produced by Eric Reif, who was the manager from Death, Chuck Schuldiner, later. It doesn't sound great, but the intensity and the raw... The roughness that goes with it is unbelievable, and just for that alone, you need to listen to this. It might be something for an acquired taste, I would say, but nonetheless, it's for me, in my book, that's a classic, and spot in the top 20 is well deserved. Next one could be a little bit of a surprise because it's not very well known. It's from Sacrament, and the record's called Horns of Violence. I had this already on in 2013 on my list. I think this is interesting for many reasons. One is that was a white metal band, a Christian metal band. Normally, if you know me, I stay away from this shit as far as I can. Here, I don't care, because A, you don't listen to the lyrics anyway, and B, the music's so insanely good that you just don't care. It's, I think, a mixture between, you could deem it as a mixture between Forbidden's Twisted into Form, when you deduct the catchiness from their riffs and their choruses in particular, with maybe an early Sadist record. Very dry, bone dry really, very intense and very long songs, 5 to 6 minute mark, very compressed. Also sound-wise, it is for people who love technical thrash metal. This is for you. And like I said, they are not well known. They split up after this one, but I think it's absolutely worth to hunt it down. By the way, this is a re-release on vinyl that was done by Retroactive Records back in the day. It's not too long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years. Record sounds great. It's on colored vinyl. It was initially not released on vinyl, so therefore you got a chance now to listen to it on wax. Now, next one we have is Testament, The Legacy. Also Stone Cold Classic. I think this is their best record. By the way, there's a little price sticker from where I bought it for 17.95 Deutsche Mark at the Saturn Hansa in Frankfurt. I think it's their best record. They have Alex Skolnick in the band on the guitars. That alone is just, they're way ahead of most of the competition. I think songs like Burned Offerings or Alone in the Dark are extremely catchy with the melodies that they put in. They had great albums afterwards too. The New Order is great. Even The Gathering later. I like even Demonic. I think there's nothing wrong with that. These days, I'm not into that anymore because it's just too standard, generic shit. But the first Testaments, you should. I mean, you know that. If you're watching that video, then you know Testament. Next one is difficult because I believe it's very embarrassing what became of this band. Back then, in 1991, it was really a banger. We're talking about Heathen, Victims of Deception. That's their second album. I think every praise that you have heard about this one, they're all true. I think this is potentially the best A-side of all time, thrash metal-wise. Hypnotized, Opiate of the Masses, and the Heathen song. 3 songs, 3 absolute monsters. Really 7-8 minutes long. Riffs. Great singer. Production sort of in between Master of Puppets and Justice for All, like many bands did back in the day. They're trying to follow Metallica. I saw them actually in 1991. They were opening for Sacred Reich and Sepultura here in Germany. I saw them in Frankfurt. My first thrash metal concert. Took me 3 months to beg my parents to go alone because my brother, who normally went with me, wasn't available. And finally they said yes. So very good recollection of that band. What got out of them now these days, or for the last 15 years really, I think it's very, very sad. They sound... It just doesn't sound good. And I think it's just a brand these days more than anything else. It's not a functioning band anymore. I get it, they're old. Maybe the name is pulling some bucks out of people's pockets these days still because of their name and their reputation. But I don't want to listen to it anymore. It's just generic horseshit. It's kind of sad. Next one is also pretty difficult, and I gotta explain because I will get a lot of heat for this. I'm not a huge Exodus fan. I've never been. I'm not even a fan. I'm not talking about a huge fan. I'm not even a fan. I don't care about them. I think vocalist Cedro's voice is absolutely abhorrent. I can't stand it for longer than, let's say, 1 minute. The successor, Rob Dukes, I didn't like either. I saw him live with him maybe in 2008, 2009. He came on stage with an American flag as pants, and from that moment I was out. I just don't give a shit. I think this is not a good band. I know that they're at the very top nowadays from the old guys, but not for me. With one exception. Their debut album was recorded with a singer called Paul Bailoff, who unfortunately passed away in 2001. But he left after the first record, Bonded by Blood in 1985, and then he returned for one live album. Now, you gotta know that there aren't many good thrash metal live albums out there. Not even just live albums. Good ones even rarer. This one is an exception. This one is Another Lesson in Violence from 1997. My biggest problem with live albums these days is really they sound like shit. They're heavily processed. They put in the fake audience noises all over the place. It sounds embarrassing. And make no mistake, this one is heavily processed too. This is 1997 and it sounds super thick and super fat. They are tight as fuck, which they weren't always really, especially Bailoff because he was shit-faced and on coke and whatever. This record, it's a double live album on vinyl that was released then by Back on Black because 97, nobody cared about vinyl. It has all the bangers from the first two records. It's a massive, just a massive record. And despite my problems with Exodus, I still listen to this. Bailoff is at his absolute peak. I saw him live in 97 too with the German metal, summer metal meetings, I believe. Sodom Creator, Crip Inc. Forbidden wanted to play but couldn't. And Exodus with Bailoff. I will never forget this. May he rest in peace. He was really one of a kind. Next one is one of my mistake corrections, really, and I fucked this up in 2013. I forgot them, which is kinda in line with the tragedy that is that band. One of the most tragic band histories, I think, in thrash metal terms. I'm talking about Wargasm, and the album is called Ugly. They were so good. They were so tight. The first album from 87, Why Play Around, widely considered as an absolute classic these days for all the right reasons. It's a great record. This one came out in 93, where thrash metal was already dying. You have very, very low amount of bands that still played that kind of thrash. Wargasm did. They returned 6 years after a 6 years hiatus because of record company deals and lawyers and contracts and all that shit. They returned in 93 with that one. It's again an absolute riff fest. If you are crazy about thrash metal riffs, this is it. You have to listen to this. And you see, there's another tragic thing. I think this is done by the Crypt, I guess, re-release label. It looks absolutely stunning. I mean, look at this beauty here. It looks absolutely stunning. It's done with a high glossy cover, artwork, gatefold. Extremely nice. And then they fucked up the pressing. Third song, Chameleon. There is a pause of, I don't know, a second, 1.5 seconds, where the music completely vanishes, completely stops. And you go, what? I don't know. Nobody complained about this, which kind of proves my point. Nobody listens to this shit anymore. They just buy it, leave it sealed, then put it on the shelf. I don't. I listen to it and I'm bummed out. Apparently it's on all copies. I had 2 of them. It's happening everywhere. And how can this happen? You have such a great record, such a great re-release, glossy, colored vinyl, whatever, and then you fuck up the pressing. That bad? What's wrong with people? You should buy this, of course, and listen to it still, even with that 1.5 second pause. It's better than 97% of everything else that you ever listen to. I know I'm going on a limb here, but this is what it is. Next one, we're talking about one of my favorite bands. Kind of a problem child for this list because I don't feel they really fit in, because they never fit in anywhere. We're talking about Voivod, of course, Killing Technology from 1987. There's absolutely no doubt that this is a stone cold classic. The thing is just, it's not really thrash, is it? They were so unique from the very beginning. Of course, you can tell it sounded a bit like a mixture between Slayer, Venom, and Motorhead, especially in the first 2 albums, War and Pain and Röhr. They kind of took it up a notch here on Killing Technology. It was, you could say maybe it was the actual birth of that band, because they sounded like nobody else did. And yes, it's kind of thrash, and at the same time it's not. It's very weird. Still, I'm putting this into this list. top 20 because they deserve it. It's a fucking great band, maybe the best metal band of all time. It's one hell of a record. It's important. It's relevant to this day. It never gets old. Voivod in a nutshell. Next one on, where are we? I think we're on 12 now. A Danish band. That for one is a surprise. And if I tell you now that this is from 1993, it might be even more surprising, because I told you 1993 thrash metal was already out of style. Nobody played it anymore. I think they got a short resurrection with Machine Head's Burn My Eyes. However, Machine Head's Burn My Eyes is not really thrash. Again, I get a lot of hate for this, and I don't care. This one here is Invocator, Weave the Apocalypse. If you have never heard of these dudes, change that immediately and buy it with that re-release from Hammerheart Records. They finally did that 2 years ago, I think, and put this out on vinyl. 93, nobody did. It was initially released by Black Mark, who gave a shit about vinyl back then. It is an immense record with immense riffs. Their first album sounded a bit like Dark Angel rip-off. That's too harsh, but let's say Dark Angel-ish. This one here, nothing of that sort. Very unique. They incorporated already a couple of groove metal elements here and there. Heavy grooves, the title track for instance. Great atmosphere. The production is also very weird. You could maybe even say it's kind of clipping here and there. By the way, the singer is Jacob Hansen, who is now a famous producer in Denmark. Very, very sought after. And when I said do it with buy it from Hammerheart, then I'm going to repeat this. This is how reissues are done. You have colored vinyl. The mastering is absolutely fantastic. Thick cardboard cover, an inlay. This is how you do it, dudes, and not like that Wargasm crap. This, it's a great record. Get it while you can. You will be surprised. I'm 100% sure. If you're into thrash metal and you don't know this, you will love it. Finally, we have on 11, Exhorder, Slaughter in the Vatican. Another Stone Cold classic produced by Scott Burns, one of the most famous, popular, best, phenomenal producers back in the day. He had his fingers literally on every record, on every classic back in the day. Florida, late 80s to early 90s, produced Obituary, Death, Atheist, Devastation, Exhorder. There's far too many to mention. Slaughter in the Vatican, a little bit of controversial album cover. I dig it, but you know, it doesn't fly, especially in 1990 when this was first released. Very intense, harsh, not only musically but also lyrically. I think there's a couple of stuff in there where you go in 2024, boy, this doesn't cut it. You can't. I wouldn't quote it these days. Still, it all kind of adds up to the overall feel of this thing. Very, very, literally out of bounds, completely unhinged, maybe is the word. How this sounds, the whole vibe, the attitude, very violent. Well, at the same time, super heavy. Extremely heavy. I think there's only one record that I would say trumps this, and this is for another story. We're talking about this in the next video, I guess. For now, these are spots 20 to 11. We're closing with Exhorder, Slaughter in the Vatican, You know this. You should. I'm pretty sure if you watch this and you do. And then we'll see us again very soon. Cheers. Bye.